Your mind is capable of recording 800 memories per second for 75 years without exhausting itself. It's the storehouse for between 10 billion and 100 billion pieces of information. The subconscious mind is like a computer, except that it's more powerful. Even the most sophisticated computers in the world have memories that hold only a few million items of accessible information. Every experience you've ever had is on permanent file in your mind. You may not be able to recall all the information it's received, but it's there. A computer that would match your mind's potential would occupy space comparable to the size of the Empire State Building and would need 1 billion watts of electrical power to run. The cost would be billions of dollars. What all this amounts to is that you have tremendous power available to you. If you discovered this power and made use of it, you could do things you never dreamed possible. This power will become available to you when you change your mental habits. In fact, how much success you achieve is the direct result of your internal programming and how you use your subconscious mind. Your thoughts are the only real limits to your possibilities. If you think limiting thoughts, you program them into your subconscious mind. As a result, you don't achieve your full potential. You can't get past those pre-programmed limits. You're stuck. There is, however, a way to break out of this stifling and destructive habit. With Matt Oechsli's 21-day plan, you can free yourself from the shackles of negative thinking and master your mental programming to achieve greater levels of success. Matt is a professional speaker and author who's helped thousands of people break bad habits and achieve their goals. With 15 years of professional expertise in therapeutic hypnosis, Matt specializes in teaching mind power strategies to businesses and associations coast to coast. He's written numerous articles on success strategies, mind power, selling, and personal development. Matt Oechsli has dedicated himself to the research and practical application of unlocking human potential. And now, here he is to help you unlock yours.
I first of all want to give you a real warm, inside welcome. Hello, my name is Matt Oechsli, and in this segment of Insight, I'm going to chat with you somewhat informally, if you will, about human potential, the mind, and changing your habits. You will see that over 90% of our behavior is actually predetermined by the habits that have been inadvertently programmed into our subconscious mind. And you'll learn a simple 4-step action plan that you can use to change or control unwanted habits within 21 days. What I'm about to share with you is not idle talk that was learned out of some book. Winning the inner game is the result of 15 years of research, testing, and application with over 30,000 people. It's helped students at Guilford College in my hometown of Greensboro, North Carolina, to study better and score higher on tests. It has helped people free themselves from relying on pills to get them to sleep, break smoking habits and overeating habits, and it helped national sales organizations by teaching them the principles of winning the inner game of selling. Whatever the situation, habits are habits, and the mind plays a vital role. I know you've heard it said before, we're all creatures of habit. Well, since it's established that over 90% of our behavior is directly attributed to habit, it makes good sense to understand how habits are created, how the mind is involved, and what role you can play. It doesn't matter whether you're the president of your company, a manager, salesperson, a mother, a student, an athlete, whatever. By understanding the principles of habits, you can change your life. My 4-step action plan will challenge you to do just that. I say challenge because the path of least resistance is to continue as you've been doing. That is, to do nothing to change. It's a challenge to initiate any type of change. And with this action plan, you'll be changing as you learn to control your habits and therefore control your life. But first, I want to give you a little background on how the mind works. This subject has been studied throughout the history of mankind. Aristotle believed the mind to be part of the heart. Plato thought it was aligned with the brain. In 1972, Roger Sperry won a Nobel Prize for his split brain research, in which he proved conclusively that the brain was composed of two distinct hemispheres. But he wasn't able to see the mind. Recently, public television ran an excellent 9-part series on the mind. Yet, this terrific series created as many questions as it answered. The fact is, much like the relationship between the heart and the soul, the brain and the mind are inextricably linked. Researchers and scientists are comfortable studying the heart and the brain, as these are tangible organs that can be seen and touched in their laboratories. But the mind has been difficult for them to define. Nobody's ever seen a mind. Yet there's universal agreement on the fact that our mind is what sets us apart from the other animals on this planet. For the purpose of this Insight segment, I'm going to talk about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Many people refer to the latent power of our subconscious, and it's considered to be 90 to 95% of our mind power. But few people understand that our conscious mind, that 5 to 10%, holds the key to this power. You see, our conscious mind is our thinking mind. It's the center of our thoughts. Our thoughts are what program automatic behavior, habits, into our subconscious mind. In other words, our subconscious is like a powerful computer that is only as useful as the programmer programs it to be. I saw a good example of how this programming works when I went on a deep-sea fishing trip with a good friend. This friend was a real nut about fishing. He has enough money to support his passion with a fully equipped $1 million sport fishing yacht, with a boat captain and all the bells and whistles imaginable. Anyway, after we went out to sea, the captain tracked a school of fish on his special fish-finding device. He then charted the appropriate course for the yacht and set the automatic pilot, so the boat would follow the fish automatically and he could fish along with the rest of us. Well, after about 30 minutes without catching anything, the captain jumped up to the helm and started manually steering the yacht in a new direction, which was much more suitable for catching fish. 15 minutes later, he had to repeat the procedure. Then it dawned on him. He'd forgotten to change the automatic pilot. We all got a laugh out of it, but no matter how skilled our captain was at manually steering the yacht, it wasn't until he had cleared the automatic pilot, changed the internal programming, that there could be any lasting change in direction. Now let me ask you a question. When was the last time you had a negative thought? We all have what I refer to as these devilish thoughts, but when was the last time you dwelled on a negative thought, to the point where you worried about it? Worry is simply a cancer to productivity. It's useless. Some 200 years ago, Benjamin Franklin said, and I quote, "It puzzles me why so many people waste their time worrying when 90% of the time, whatever it is they're worrying about will never happen, has already happened, or is totally out of their control." Well, I think Franklin summed it up very well. Many people spend too much time and energy worrying. Why? Because most people have been taught to think too much. They spin their wheels, overworking their conscious mind. But even worse, it leads to negative thinking, which in turn leads to worry, which means that some sort of negative behavior is being programmed into the subconscious mind. This then becomes automatic behavior. The cycle is so subtle, so innocent, yet it's our #1 bad habit. It actually holds more people back than all other bad habits combined. And I call it the negative programming cycle. It's become a habit to focus on problems. When you relive the past day with your spouse or business associate, how often does most of the conversation revolve around problems? Or why do you hear about your son acting up in class, but you never hear about him being good? It's because we've grown accustomed to taking positive behavior for granted. When things go well, we act as if it's to be expected. As a whole, we've been taught to focus on our problems. I'm not quite sure how this self-limiting habit evolved, but it's quite serious. I recently read a study by 2 behavioral psychologists in which they measure the communication received by children ages 4 to 7 years old. They monitored the communication these children had from their primary adult figures, parents, and teachers. The findings were an embarrassment. These poor kids were receiving close to 10 negative communicative responses to every one positive response. These children were being taught to focus on their problems, and at a young age were unwittingly developing this self-limiting habit, the negative programming cycle. What's so fascinating is that children are actually the microcosm of life. We can learn so much from our children. Everybody's aware of the need for positive thinking, but knowledge is not power. Power is the application of what you know. You can test and validate everything I'm talking about with your children. For instance, if your 4-year-old daughter has her cup of milk dangerously close to the edge of the table, and you bring attention to it by saying, "Amy, watch out. You're going to knock your milk off the table." Amy now has a better than 50-50 chance of doing exactly what you suggested, knocking her milk off the table. Why? Because that's precisely how the mind works. On the other hand, if you were to say to Amy, "Amy, you sure growing up to be a big girl. Now put your milk in the middle of the table like Daddy's and sit up like my big girl." Amy will then move her milk into the middle of the table every time. Why? Because you're focusing on what you want and treating Amy the way she wants to be treated, like a big girl. This reminds me of a management training program that I conducted with a large 4-color printing company. I had challenged the group to commit to these winning inner game principles, and if they had any doubt, to test them on their children. 1 week later, at the beginning of the second session, I asked the managers to share their thoughts with the group. Immediately, a gentleman who didn't say one word during the first session stood up. "I was very skeptical at first," he said. "I was out to prove you wrong. So I tackled a problem I'd had for years with my 3 boys. They'd always leave the lights on all over the house. It was a constant battle. I was always after them, saying things like, 'You boys can never remember to turn off the lights,' and it would make me angry. Well, I changed to saying, 'We always turn off the lights in this house. You guys are doing a super job turning off the lights.' And within 3 days, they were turning off the lights on their own. As he was sitting down, he concluded, 'My kids made me a believer.' It's important to understand that your subconscious mind is the center of all automatic behavior. It stores our habits. It doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction, as it's totally literal, unable to distinguish between a true or false statement. Since our subconscious mind is very powerful and capable of storing more information than we'll ever need, we have a screening device at the base of our brain that helps keep us free from useless information. This device is called the reticular activating system. I love the description given by a personal development trainer, Lou Tice. He says it's actually a net-like group of cells that filters the information we allow into our consciousness. The reticular activating system only allows 2 types of information to enter: information that's threatening or information that's of value. This device is what enables a mother to jump out of bed when her baby's crying in the middle of the night in another room, yet the alarm clock never budges her in the morning. Or think about the last new car you bought, and how suddenly you noticed every car on the road of the same make. It was as if everybody went out and bought a car just like yours. This is your reticular activating system at work, letting in threatening information, the crying baby for a mother, or valuable information, a similar new car. This system plays an important role in understanding the power of suggestion and focus. Lou Tice gives a wonderful analogy of a child on a bicycle focused on a rock in the middle of the road and therefore running into it. I recall having a similar encounter with one of my daughters, but instead of a rock, it was a pothole. I was teaching my daughter Heidi how to ride a 2-wheel bicycle when she was 4, and I forgot to practice what I preach. Heidi was excited about learning how to ride the 2-wheel bike. It was in March, just after a stormy winter, and there were lots of potholes in the road from the snowplows and salt. Anyway, I got Heidi on the bike. I put her hands on the handlebars, feet on the pedals, and she was excited. Then I noticed a little pothole directly in front of her, and forgetting what I teach, I told her to watch out for that pothole, because if she rode into it, she'd fall and she could hurt herself. Well, guess what? I gave her a little push, and she rode into that pothole, fell, cried, and didn't want to ride anymore. She did exactly what I programmed her to do. I focused on the problem for her, and she carried it to fruition. The next day, I had to atone for my faux pas, so I took Heidi to the same spot, gave her positive suggestions, and we practiced riding for over 30 minutes. She fell regularly, but not into the pothole. When my daughter focused on the pothole, she wrote into it. Focus on what you want is perceived as valuable information, and it flows into your consciousness. Our subconscious mind still doesn't know the difference between something real or imagined. Unfortunately, worrying activates your reticular activating system negatively by allowing useless, threatening information to enter. Then your conscious mind lies to your subconscious mind negatively, and you're not even aware of your self-limiting behavior. Take our societal concern about weight, for example. How many people do you know who worry about weight? Maybe you're guilty of this. In my private practice, I see people who are driving themselves crazy worrying about weight. I call this the diet mentality. The more they worry about their weight, the more they program themselves to function like an overweight person, and the more they overeat. The more they try to diet, step on a scale, or even talk about weight, the more they reinforce that overweight program in the subconscious mind. That's why so many people lose weight and gain it back, just like the sport fishing yacht. No lasting change can be made until the internal programming is changed. By using winning inner game principles, overweight people can learn to focus on what they want. Weight is not the real problem. It's just an unpleasant, visible detail which will take care of itself once the programming is changed. The first requirement I ask is a total commitment to a lifetime mission of health, fitness, and natural weight control. Everything else simply builds upon and supports this self-programming message. Their subconscious mind believes this repeated message is fact and supports it by enabling them to act as if they already were healthy and fit. You see, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. You determine what you want and focus on the end result. This information then becomes valuable and is allowed in by your reticular activating system, and so you repeatedly lie to your subconscious mind as if it already were true. Now, how does this all relate to you? Well, it takes 21 days to develop a habit. Behavioral psychologists have been saying this for years, but rather than just talking about it, I'm going to share with you 4 steps that, if you apply daily, will allow you to develop many productive habits. Before I get into the 4 steps, you must first select an area for self-improvement, some aspect of you that you would really like to change. Maybe you'd like to elevate your confidence a full notch. You might want to be more patient and understanding with your children. Maybe you want to be healthy and fit, or make more money, or be a stronger leader, or become a public speaker. I want you to think about this, because whatever area in your life you target for self-improvement, this area will be the center of your attention during your 21-day action plan. Your 21-day plan consists of 4 steps and an investment of 15 minutes a day. Programming step number 1. You must write down a self-statement that describes exactly how you want to be as if it were true now. Your statement needs to be worded in the present tense and must be positive. For instance, if you've never had the confidence you would have liked to have, you write, "I am full of confidence." Or if you lose your temper with your children when you know you shouldn't, write, "I am full of patience and understanding with my children." Always word your self-statements as a current fact. In this way, you're taking maximum advantage of your subconscious mind because, remember, it doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction. Programming step number 2. Record the self-statement you've just written onto a cassette tape, repeating the statement at 7 to 10-second intervals for 15 minutes. This will be your own self-programming cassette that you can listen to in the car or whenever. Let's use "I am full of confidence" as the self-statement we're going to record. Get yourself a handheld recorder or connect a microphone to your stereo system, put in a blank tape and record, "I am full of confidence," and then pause for 7 to 10 seconds and repeat it again, "I am full of confidence," and pause for 7 to 10 seconds, and so on. Make certain to speak clearly at a good pace. I suggest recording your statement twice and then listening to it. Many people tend to speak too fast and too softly. Oh yes, don't concern yourself with the sound of your voice. If it's the first time you've ever heard yourself, you probably won't like it, but you'll get used to it fast. Programming step number 3. Get a picture of yourself that represents what you want and place it on your nightstand or someplace by your bed. Now this is easy if you want a new car, a new house, or some other material possession, but if gaining confidence is your mission, you'll have to be more creative. You might take a picture of a person who represents to you the epitome of confidence and replace their head with yours. Sounds a little morbid, doesn't it? But it works. You'll soon see that confident person in that picture as being you. Every night as you prepare to drift into that blissful state of sleep, simply look at your picture, then lay your head on your pillow and go to sleep. Your subconscious mind will be working on this image, programming it all night as you sleep. I remember using this exercise as a scrawny little 12-year-old kid. I grew up in a nice middle-class neighborhood in New York. The only problem was there was a girl on my block, a year older than me, who used to beat me up at least once a week. It wasn't really as embarrassing as it sounds, because she used to beat everybody up. But I was determined to put a stop to this weekly ritual, so, against my mother's wishes, I purchased a 110-pound weight set with my paper route money and snuck it into the basement. I wanted to look like one of those muscle men in the magazines, so I cut out my favorite picture of Mr. Universe at the time, replaced his head with mine, and taped it on the wall by my bed. Gosh, did I get a lot of flack about that picture from my family and friends, but I kept it there. And interestingly enough, I kept lifting weights when all my friends got lazy. We all started off equal in strength, but gradually I started leaving them behind. Many good things happened as a result of my disciplined weightlifting. The girl quit bullying everybody, my confidence grew, I became an excellent wrestler, but what I got the biggest thrill out of was being voted as having the best physique by my graduating class. I didn't even know the award existed, but I still had that picture on the wall in my room. Get a picture that represents what you want and let your subconscious mind work for you every night. Programming step number 4. You must invest 10 to 15 minutes every day to writing and visualizing your self-improvement. Select a time. I always recommend early in the morning, and write your self-statement 10 times. Then look at your picture, close your eyes, and visualize yourself living that picture as if it were real now. Sense all the detail. Make yourself the star of your daydream, being that person you ideally want to be. After about 10 minutes or so, open your eyes and take another look at your picture and go about your business of the day. This is like creating your own mental movie in your mind, and you're the star, just as you'd like to be. It's much like a controlled daydream, and with a little practice, you'll be able to do it very easily. Now, there is no perfection. Your mind will wander. You'll be unsure of the time, but relax and just stay with it. After a few sessions, the time will be built into your subconscious, and your mind will always wander to a certain degree. But these 4 steps are strategically designed to activate your natural mental powers, your reticular activating system, your conscious mind, and your subconscious mind will all be functioning on your behalf. Any person who will invest the time and energy in carrying out these 4 action steps will have made a significant and positive change in his or her lives within 21 days. This is why I challenge you to commit yourself to get involved. I know the results that are in store for you. Listen to your self-programming tape every day while you drive. Look at your picture as you drift into sleep. This requires no time except for the setup. Your time will be invested in that 10 to 15 minute written visual exercise. But what's 10 minutes compared to permanent and positive change? One last tip. During your 21-day period, I want you to get actively involved with a sophisticated piece of biofeedback equipment, a rubber band. Place a rubber band on your wrist, and every time you recognize any negative thoughts about anything, give that little baby a snap, and follow that snap with a corresponding positive self-statement. For instance, if you catch yourself getting angry, snap your rubber band and say to yourself, "I am relaxed and in control." This enables you to flush the negative thought before it can get programmed and replace it with your own positive programming statement. This rubber band, red wrists and all, will help you develop the habit of dwelling on the positive rather than the negative, and it will program this habit into your subconscious. This is the positive programming cycle. Behavioral psychologists say that at least 85% of our communication is internal, our thoughts. And I agree. Commit yourself to this 21-day action plan, 4 steps in the rubber band, and you'll create the habit of controlling your life and getting what you want. You'll also be able to teach this positive programming cycle, this habit development, to others. your children, friends, employees, by simply applying it in your own life. Sounds simple, doesn't it? It is, but it's not easy. I've just brushed the surface of the subject, but it's an excellent way to get started. I challenge you to embellish the simplicity and get started in taking control of the habits in your life.
That was Matt Oechsli talking about human potential, the mind, and changing your habits. This is Steve King. Join us next month for another edition of Insight. And now, please fast forward this cassette to hear Nito Cobain and Earl Nightingale on side 1.